Let's look at another branch of military service. Although we can lump them in the same category as soldiers, since they were counted as military personnel, there were also black Southerners who served in the Confederate Navy. Unlike the Army, which until March 1865 explicitly required soldiers to be white, the CS Navy regulations, specifically Chapter 30, Article 4, allowed freemen of color to join the Navy. But there was a catch. These freemen of color could join only with permission of the Naval Station Commander or by order of the department. To make that clear, the regulation did not say freemen of color can simply join the Navy. It said they will only be accepted under limited circumstances. Slaves could, however, be enlisted as landsmen, which are people from the land who know little about sailing, and is a rank even lower than seamen. Randall Polk, a slave belonging to a naval surgeon, was enlisted by his owner as a landsman and served on the CSS Georgia in the Savannah Squadron. One slave who had reached the peak that was possible for enslaved African Americans to reach in the Southern social ladder was Robert Cole, one of President Jefferson Davis's slaves, and he was assigned to the CSS Patrick Henry in the James River Squadron. Dr. Edward Smith, former Dean of African American Studies at American University, estimated as many as 1,150 men of color out of 6,000 total sailors in the Confederate Navy. One child of color who managed to enlist was Benjamin Gray, who joined the Navy at age 12 as a boy seaman and served in the Wilmington Squadron. The rank of boy in the Navy was like a cadet rank for minors who would become enlisted seamen once they were adults, whereas cadets were minors who would be officers at adult age. Boys in the Navy often worked as personal assistants for officers and warrant officers, kind of like child body servants, while also doing a lot of menial labor around the ship. Because they were minors, boy seamen were usually not subject to discipline under military law until they were 18. One of the most famous black sailors attached to the Confederate Navy in modern historiography is Moses Dallas. He was a slave, a highly skilled boat pilot, river and coastal, and he was hired directly by Flag Officer Josiah Tatnall at the rate of $60 a month. He was lucky, and a rare exception in that his owner let him keep his own salary. Slavery was a money-making institution for slave owners after all, so most slaves enlisted in or hired out to the Navy surrendered their pay to their owners, and if they were lucky, they were given some spending money. By early 1864, Dallas had made enough money to buy his wife and daughter's freedom. That right there is a big fat clue as to Dallas's motivation to put himself in harm's way, driving ironclads in a combat zone. Moses Dallas became a legend in the Confederate pantheon when he was killed in battle in Ossabaw Sound in June 1864, a martyr for the Southern nation. Lost causers and sloppy researchers like to claim Moses Dallas was an officer, which unfortunately is not true. He was a brave man for putting himself in harm's way as much as he did. He was listened to for his extensive vocational and technical expertise, and he was highly regarded by the white naval sailors he served with, despite being a slave. Yet, Moses was still discriminated against by the system, which sought to keep skilled workers like him enslaved in perpetuity. Unlike enlisting freemen of color, which required permission from Naval Station Level Command and usually a direct intervention from the Holy Spirit, slaves could enlist in the Confederate Navy or be enlisted with their owner's consent. Slaves could enlist as boys or landsmen, but not as pilots. However, enslaved pilots could be hired out to the Navy as contractors. For example, Moses Dallas the pilot worked in the Savannah Squadron on the Georgia coast, and this unit was raised for the Navy by the state, just like most Army regiments were raised by their home states. Freemen of color were forbidden from being boat pilots under Georgia law, but slaves could still be used as pilots, and they often were, and their owners were well compensated with salaries comparable to junior naval officers for their slave-skilled labor. Moses Dallas was not an officer in the Confederate Navy. He was an enslaved contractor with highly sought-after skills that were critical to naval operations. That is how he was able to buy his wife and daughter out of slavery. All of this makes him look like a champion underdog, while it makes the Confederacy as a whole look pretty terrible.